Today on our 2018 Jaguar F-Pace, we're going to be taking a look at and showing you how to install the CURT Class 3 trailer hitch receiver, part number C13291. This is what our hitch looks like when it's installed. As you can see, the cross tube is completely hidden behind the bumper. This hitch sits nice and flush with the back of the bumper, so you're not going to worry about hitting your legs on it or your shins on it when you're getting anything in and out of the vehicle. It's going to be a Class 3. It's going to be 2" by 2". Hitch pin hole is going to be 5/8 in diameter. It's going to have ring style safety chain loops. Gives you plenty of room for different size safety chain hooks. Has a nice black powder coat finish to resist rust and corrosion. This is going to have a 900-pound max tongue weight, which is a downward pressure on the inside of the receiver tube. It's going to have a 6,000-pound max trailer weight, which is a trailer plus the load included. Now, I do recommend checking your owner's manual to make sure your vehicle can withstand that amount of weight. And you're going to want to pick the lowest number between the hitch and the vehicle. CURT also requires the use of stabilization straps for any non-trailer loads. One thing I like about this hitch on this vehicle is most of it is hidden behind the bumper. It's got a nice sleek look to it. Reinforced collar gives it extra stability on the tongue. The safety chain rings here give it a nice sleek look, as opposed to some hitches that are big and bulky. When they designed this hitch, they had the vehicle in mind. They gave it a nice clean look. To begin our installation, we're going to remove this panel down here on the bottom of the vehicle. We have 4 Phillips head screws across the back, and you're going to have 3 10mm bolts along the underside. We'll remove the Phillips heads first. And we'll remove our 3 10mm bolts. And we'll just set this panel aside. Under each wheel well, we're going to have 2 Phillips head screws right down to their bottom that are holding our wheel well in place. Next, we're going to peel back our wheel well liner. This wheel accent piece, or fender accent piece, you'll notice 5 screws up here. You're going to have 3 Phillips head screws and 2 Torx bit head screws. We're going to have to remove those. We'll set this aside for reinstallation. We're going to do the same process on the other side of the vehicle. Now, what I have determined is there's actually a 6th screw that needs to be removed under each wheel well, and it's going to be right down here under this black panel. It's going to connect to this brace that goes down underneath the trunk pan. Again, it's just a Phillips head screw. Next, we're going to remove this plastic panel here on the inside of the tail light. And we're going to do this on each side of the vehicle. Where it's going to gently pry out like that. And we'll set it aside to get reinstalled later. So you're going to have a 10mm screw. We'll use a 10mm socket. We're going to do that same thing on the other side of the vehicle. Next, we'll take a Phillips screwdriver. We're going to remove the center of this. Then we're going to take a plastic trim panel tool, and we're going to take this plastic piece out. Now, with an extra set of hands, we're going to remove our bumper fascia. I want you to keep in mind you can have sensors that run across your bumper. On the inside, you're going to have wires connected. So once you pull your bumper fascia off, you need to disconnect those wires so you don't do any damage to them. We're going to start on the outside by the fender. You're just going to gently pry out and move your way to the center of the vehicle. Here on the driver's side, we're going to take a trim panel tool and we're going to pop these 2 connectors off to give us a little extra room to get them unplugged. You're going to pull up on this orange piece. This tab right here, you want to pull up. Just pull out. This one has a little tab here on the top. Just going to push down and pull apart. And we'll set our fascia aside. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to remove our bumper beam. You're going to have 4 bolts on each side. You're going to be a 13/16 socket. We're going to take these 4 bolts out on both sides of the vehicle. One thing I do want to mention, you want to make sure you use a socket wrench first to loosen them if you plan on using any power tools, because you don't want to break the bolts off inside of the welds. And we're not going to take this one out all the way yet. until we get the other side done, because we don't want the bumper beam to fall. So we're going to use this as a hanger. Screw it in a couple threads, and then we'll do the other side. Next, go ahead and remove our last bolt. Right up here on the top, you might have to come over to this side. There's a pin right here that the bumper beam sits on. You're gonna have to kind of pry out on that. We're just gonna set this aside real quick. So next thing we're gonna have to do is we're gonna remove this plastic piece that runs across. There's little pins right up here that we're gonna have to kind of bend up out of the way for our hitch to be even to get our bolts through our holes. So we'll use an 8mm socket. You're gonna have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 screws. Then we'll just take this and we're gonna set it right up here like that. We're gonna reinstall it here in just a few minutes. These pins right here, we're gonna go ahead and remove them. We're just gonna take a hammer and tap them inside the frame here. They don't really serve any purpose, but they do get in our way of our hitch assembly. And we're gonna take it, and we're just gonna push it inside, and we'll take a magnet, and right on the inside here, we'll be able to get it back out. Now with an extra set of hands, put our bumper in place, along with our bumper beam. And we'll get a bolt started on each side. We're going to be using factory hardware that we took out. Once you have all your hardware in place, we'll tighten everything down. We'll use a 13/16 socket. Once you have all your hardware tightened down, then you can torque it down to the specifications and the instructions. Next, we'll put this back into place. Now with an extra set of hands, we'll put our fascia back in place, but first we need to reconnect our sensor wiring. We'll just match up our plugs and put them back into the holes that they were in. And we're going to do this opposite of the way we took it off. We're going to start in the middle of the bumper and move our way out. And we're just going to take our panel here and we're going to feed it up over the top. I'm going to make sure these tabs are on the top. We'll just work our way around, push everything back into place. Next, we'll reinstall our screws on both sides of the vehicle. Reinstall our fasteners here. Next, we'll put on our last plastic covers here by our taillights. You're going to have a couple tabs. You're going to have one that goes in, and this one goes into the fender itself. We're going to start with the bottom one, push it in, and then slide this one back, pop it into place. And repeat that on the other side. Next, we'll replace all of our screws on the inside of our fenders. We're going to start with this bottom one. Next, we're going to reinstall our accent piece. Again, you're going to have 3 Phillips head screws in it and 2 hex head. Once you have those back installed, you can put our 2 screws into our wheel aligner. Again, it's going to be 2 Phillips head screws. Once you've got both of these installed, you're going to do the same thing on the other side of the vehicle. Next thing we need to do is we need to trim out our panel that goes on the bottom underneath the vehicle. If you look right here, there's a little indention. The center of this is going to be the center of these 2 holes. So what we're going to do, we're going to measure from the inside of each hole here to find our center and make sure it matches up there. And C center is right at 3 inches. So now per our instructions, we'll make our marks. We're going to be cutting out this section right here in the middle. I'm going to try and stay on right on the outside of my line. And you can use a utility knife. I'm going to use a Dremel tool with a cutting wheel on it. And I'll take my utility knife, just kind of trim off like this. Next, we'll put our panel back in place and start installing our hardware. Remember, toward the front of the vehicle, here we're going to have 3 bolts. And right along the back, we're going to have 4 Phillips head screws. And that'll do it for the CURT Class 3 Trailer Hitch Receiver, part number C13291 on our 2018 Jaguar F-Pace.